She's very modest, very private, and she will not be happy that you're doing this.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad you are, because she deserves the recognition.
Well, I've known Esther Lang on and off since I've been in town because I was in education, although she was at the elementary schools and I was at secondary school. But of course I'd run into her at all kinds of things. But I ended up her principal at Ashcroft Elementary for 7 years.
I did practice teaching in '69 and I came back in '71. And Esther came a year later. And we've known each other for a long time.
She was a librarian officially when we still had such, and did a great job, but she pitched in everywhere else. She's the ultimate team player, always has been.
I first met Esther when I was working for the school district, and she was a teacher on call. Was my first experience with her. And then after that, once I started working at the Elizabeth Fry Society, our paths crossed each other quite a few times.
I got to know Esther when I volunteered to do Christmas hampers. The first year I did it was 2018, and I was amazed at the energy of this woman. She just blew my mind.
I have known Esther primarily through Community Resources Society. She's the president of CRS, and she has been organizing Christmas hampers for the last 3 or 4 years.
The thing that comes to mind for me when someone mentions Esther's name, I kind of came into Esther's life only in the last few years, or she came into my life, and it was through the Christmas hampers. But when I spoke to other people about my amazement of her abilities and her energy and all of those things, the support for her, the people who admired her was just, it didn't matter who I talked to. They either had a story about how she had given to them or given to the community, or and a lot of things that Esther does, she does very much behind the scene, and she never looks for recognition for it. They're things that she does because she is who she is.
She sees what needs to be done, and she just plans for it and does it. And since COVID started, there are people who don't drive and who don't catch rides like they used to, and Esther goes out of her way to deliver groceries for people. And not only deliver them, she actually goes and shops for them. And I didn't realize what a clientele she had. Like, she'll go all the way to Loon Lake, and it just astounds me where she gets the energy and the time and still have a life of her own. Amazing.
She really reads the room, reads the situations. As we said before, really enjoys being in the background, just helping make things happen for people.
It just seems that she has a feel for what needs to be done, and instead of thinking about it, she seems to just do it.
I understand for the past 10 years, she has gone over to the Ukraine as a missionary from her church and taught English as a second language over there. And I think she goes for 2 or 3 weeks each time, and she does this on her own. And as I say, anything that she does, she's very dedicated, and she does it from her heart.
Esther's impact on the community, I think, is really unmeasurable. I look at the Christmas hampers. I know she's involved with that. She also volunteers up at Jackson House and does like a hymn sing for seniors. I know during this pandemic, her name and her capacity has been at the forefront. I know at the food bank there were emergency hampers we needed to deliver, and we were able to call Esther, and you know, at a moment's notice she would be down and providing service. I know as part of the COVID helpline, she also would transport anyone or anything that needed support during that time.
The impact that I think Esther has on the community is her selflessness. When you speak to her former students, when she was a teacher, that she supported students not only in the education sense of the reading, writing, and arithmetic, it was also in how to be a good person and how to be a good student and how to be a contributor to your community.
She made such an impression on her students that as adults, she'll run into her students. They're adults now. They give her a hug, they give her acknowledgement, they just love her and they remember her, and that isn't true with all teachers.
I'm amazed at the impact she has in the community, how she's able to rally volunteers, as well as getting supplies and making sure everybody in the community is taken care of. She goes above and beyond sort of the expectations of a volunteer.
Perfect person that loves to be in the background and yet make sure everything runs and everybody's okay.
How would I describe Esther in one or two words? She's a very special lady. She's kind, caring. Can I add a couple more words?
Absolutely.
And as I've said before, she's very conscientious and organized. Very dedicated, hardworking volunteer. I think Ashcroft would fall apart if Esther moved.
Reliable and organized. But I wish I had more that I could use. Sensitive, I think, is another good one. Very sensitive to people's needs, and virtually always puts her needs below those of others. So it's that kind of sensitivity.
First thing that comes to mind when I think of Esther is the Energizer Bunny. I have never seen anybody go as hard. Like I say, the majority of my time with Esther was working on Christmas hampers, and even this year last year, pardon me, with COVID and the restrictions that we had and the limitations that we had, she just dug in and figured out a way to get around it and made it happen. And she just goes and goes, and I'm pretty sure that the day the door closes after the last hamper has been delivered, her brain is already working on next year's hampers and the things that need to be done. She just has limitless energy.
Organized. Esther is very, very organized. And that's a very good quality in these days, because I've lost it.
If I had to come up with a couple of words to describe Esther, I think it would be, I could actually do it in one. I would call her a hero.
I'm really happy that I had this opportunity to do this and to be able to say, thank you, Esther, for everything you do.
It's been a real pleasure knowing her, being able to work with her, and watching her work. The town would certainly not be as rich as it is without volunteers like Esther.